Hi, welcome to the Lines Between the Stars
Okay.
podcast. I'm Sam.
And I'm Samri.
Yeah, and today we are going to be just geeking out over Star Trek.
Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, yeah. So we've had an episode where we talked about the Next Generation, and yeah, a lot of our relationship was sitting down together watching Star Trek on Netflix. All of Star Trek. Well, not the original. We haven't watched the original series yet,
Or Enterprise.
but yeah. So let's kind of go into Deep Space Nine and after we finished TNG and how did you feel about Deep Space Nine like initially?
I thought it was different because they're not on a spaceship
Yeah.
full
So
time. So I was like, how are they going to do this with what appeared to be pretty chaotic, right? Because they were trying to rebuild from a civil war.
Right. So Deep Space Nine starts out with is it starts out with the Bajoran people getting their independence from a Cardassian occupation. And the Cardassians, not to be confused with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
It's Cardassia. So it's a little confusing there. But they're all they're these Leather-faced aliens that who take over that conquer.
They
that
have gray
conquer
skin.
They have gray skin, stuff like that, and they're pretty militaristic.
Mhm.
And so they recently the Bajorans, got their independence, and they're seeking help from the Federation
Mhm.
from for protection, for helping
Yeah.
out, get them back on their feet. And the Federation is looking to these people as another potential member to join the Federation as well.
Mhm.
So that's where our first main character, Ben Cisco, comes in. He
Yeah.
is assigned to Deep Space Nine, which
Mhm.
is a satellite that originally monitors Bajor.
Oh, okay.
Right? It monitors Bajor, and he's sent there, and he has actually they introduced this really early on in Deep Space Nine, but they don't really go anywhere with it. But he has beef with Picard because
yeah.
his because
Yeah.
the on
He
the
didn't
battle
want to be sent?
no because his wife died at the battle of Wolf 346 or something like that, where remember Picard got taken. The Borg had captured Picard and turned Picard into a Borg and used Picard's knowledge to attack the Federation.
Oh, okay.
And so during that battle, Ben's wife dies in that battle. So he has a bit of beef with Picard.
I mean, he was what is it? I don't know the term, but it's not his fault. He was taken over.
It's not his fault, but I think Ben in season one, Benjamin Sisko in season one, kind of has more he's written differently than Ben from season two onwards, right? And this is a lot of thing that happens in Deep Space Nine. In season one, they were still trying to get used to the characters, so the characters are depicted a little bit differently. And then once they kind of got all right, this is what we want to do. These are how the actors want to go with their characters. Let's write them this way. So Ben is he gets played off as kind of this hot-headed guy in the first season, right? Yeah. But then becomes just this pillar of stability.
Yeah.
In
the beginning, seasons. My impression of him was that he was always angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's bitter about something.
Right. And then
that can't change. I mean, it's understandable because he's a single parent now. Because
so another thing too is Ben is he is the father of he's the father of a young boy a young boy.
And he grows up in the season.
Also, another thing to point out for people who don't know, Ben Cisco, he's black. He's the first male. He's the first black leading character in Star Trek.
Okay, in the franchise.
You know, in the Star Trek franchise, he's the first black lead. So this is also pretty important. You know, this is also pretty important too. And something that like is really good is Benjamin Sisko has a very loving relationship with his son.
Mm-hmm.
He acts as like a mentor for his son. He's always there in his son's life. You know.
Yeah.
And it's a really great relationship, and the actors themselves had a really great like mentor-mentee relationship as well. You know, I'd actually put it like along the lines of who played Uncle Phil? I think Uncle Phil and Will Smith.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know, but like it's kind of like Uncle Phil and Will Smith, how like them as actors also was like a mentor-mentee relationship outside the show. But in Deep Space Nine, Ben like was outside the show. Ben like mentored Jake's actor as well.
Oh, okay.
You know, and they had a really good relationship, and it shows on camera as well.
Yeah, and I was expecting Ben, the real character, the real person, to be married to a non-black woman.
Yeah, that was a really funny thing. You're like, oh, he's probably married to a white woman. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not gonna hear the end of this. So I actually looked it up, and I was like, please be married to a black woman. Please be married to a black woman. And then like he's like, oh, he's married to a black woman. Cool.
Yeah, you got excited. You're like, oh, here, babes.
Here, babes. You don't worry. Don't worry. He's married to a black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though Star Trek does have like an issue of like, oh, if you're black, like at least like in this era of if you're black, you have to marry a black woman.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like how he. Well, even when the alien was interested in him, you know, like you know that like. There was this woman who was like really she's not human basically. Like she's like a different being, like I forget what it was, like she's a spiritual being. Yeah. But her physical manifestation was a black woman. And I'm like, why can't she be a different race?
Okay.
But yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. So another thing too is Ben also has like a lot of episodes dealing with being black, and even like Star Trek's like, oh, we don't care about race, like we've grown past race and stuff like that. But Ben is kind of like, he is a character who respects his culture. He like has value in his culture, and I think this is also just James Avery, the actor for Ben Sisko, also implementing that into his character as well. Because him as a the actor himself is a person who's like all about like black, black rights, and it's very much part of his identity too. And I think like he actually had trouble getting acting roles too because of like his...
because of that.
Yeah, because of that. So that when I think the writers, I remember listening to a podcast with the writers of Deep Space Nine, they got warned, like, are you sure you want to do this guy because he apparently hates white people or something like that. And then that was like the impression that some people had of him,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, but they went with him. And they ended up instead, and in a lot of shows you have the case of the actor having to act around like what the writers have for the character, right? And in the case of Benjamin Sisko, the writers wrote around
what the actor
was like and what the actor wanted.
That's nice.
So, and that's the thing about Star Trek too that I like, is that the actors themselves have a lot of input onto where their characters go. Right. And there's some episodes too where they have some of these episodes where it takes place in like 1960s.
Yeah.
And then Ben plays as the actor plays as like this like comic book this black book writer in the day of like pulp science fiction, like writing pulp science fiction novels, and he's writing the story of Deep Space Nine, right?
That was a cool episode because I'm like, oh.
And it's crazy because he's like, this is it's like, yeah, like this is Ben Cisco, and then it's like heartbreaking when you see like the publishers like, we can't have a black captain, like we can't have a black space
they
commander.
didn't know the writer was black as well.
Yeah.
So the publishing top person hired him, but he didn't allow him to
make a pro
come out as
their identities were hidden. And even like in that same episode they had a female writer too,
Kira,
who was played as Kira's, and she wasn't allowed to disclose her gender as well. Everyone had to be a white male.
Was there also a gay person
maybe
who had to?
I don't think so. Like, I think because
Deep
Space Nine was in the 90s. Deep Space Nine was like, it started like in the 90s and into the 2000s. And like television, pop culture was not as woke yet,
20 years ago.
20 years ago, right? So no gays allowed, unfortunately.
I think Quark would have been gay. Was made during this time.
Well, no, Quark was interested in women. He like was misogynistically into women.
I mean, because he's a
Ferengi.
The Ferengi.
Let's talk about Jake, because Jake is a big part of Ben's character. So Jake is the son of Ben Cisco. He's a young adult, and he grows throughout the series. You see him physically grow too, because Star Trek, each season's maybe like a year, and his voice changes. He grows older because they hire him on an actor when he's like 12, 13, and then he grows up, and he's like at the end of the series, he's like taller than Ben. He's huge.
Lanky and
tall. And then so like Jake is like a great son too. Like he tries to get his dad, like he's like, hey dad, like I know you're not getting action, but there's this really cool woman, and dad, I want you to get laid. Dad, you need to date someone. And that's where like he gets Cassidy. He finds Cassidy Yates and hooks Ben up on a date. And then Jake also, like, he, a lot of it, like, he's his whole thing for me, like, I remember Jake more from his conversation, from his interactions with his dad. But like as a solo character, I don't think he's as interesting as like a solo character.
I mean, there was some arc.
There is an arc to him, because he and this is interesting because usually you expect like the son of like a Federation person to go join Starfleet, And that's usually the thing. But Jake was like, I don't want to join Starfleet.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, especially since he's the son of the captain.
Yeah. Right. So that was an interesting thing, and I think Jake shines the best when he when someone bounces off of him. Whether it be Nog, whether it be Ben, like whenever it be like any of these other characters, I think that's when Jake really shines as a character.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like I think the Jake only episodes, or maybe, I mean, there was the one where he went with Bashir to the planet and he saw
to be a reporter,
and he saw like this like, and he essentially like goes into this like war area where like
he gets PTSD.
Where he just gets PTSD, and there's a part where the enemies are the enemies are coming in, and Jake is just like panic shooting, like panic. He takes a gun and just shoots everything he sees, and he causes a cave in.
And he was cowardly.
Yeah, too. And he was like he like ran away. He like left people to die, and then at the end of it, they're like, Jake, you're a hero. You like caused that cave in that stopped them from coming in. And all Jake can do is just cry because he's like, he doesn't feel like a hero. And like everyone's treating him like he was a hero, but like he's like, no, like I left people to die. Like he's like, I left people to die, and he almost leaves Bashir to die too. Right, like Bashir, like they're trying to get medicine from the ship, and then they got ambushed, and then he just run, and then Jake just runs.
Oh yeah.
Right, And it's a human thing to do.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, and no one has any, like, ill feelings towards Jake during that episode because it's like, yeah, he's not Starfleet.
Yeah, I think he really shines as an actor during that episode because, you know, like, you know, black men don't cry on screen. Yeah. He cried.
Yeah,
well, maybe he was just a boy, but you know.
Yeah, he's a young man, and in the face of like an extremely dangerous situation that he was not like prepared for, right? And you know, like he as a civilian, you see the glorified he gets all the glorified versions of like what Starfleet like goes through during like battles and stuff like that.
He only sees them once they come back to the base.
Right, and then he had experienced this. Let's see, what else? And so let's go to Kira Nerys. Kira is the second in command of Deep Space Nine. And she represents the Bajoran side of the leadership because Deep Space Nine is... Oh, let's talk about the last thing about Ben Sisko. He becomes the religious figure of the Bajoran people.
Oh, yeah.
So in Deep Space Nine, what happens is that there is essentially like a wormhole. And in the Star Trek universe, wormholes are places that lead from one part of space to another part of space. And the thing about other wormholes is that the entrances always change places.
Oh, okay.
They don't stay in the same spot for very long. So you can't use them as a normal method of travel, because if like you go to one place, you end up like super far away, and then the other side disappears, then you're stranded.
Yeah, for some time.
That's like the plot line. That's like one of the plot lines in like in Voyager, right? Yeah. So like so this wormhole, however, is stable. It always leads to the same spot on both sides. But this is also where an alien species known as the Prophets reside. And the Prophets, they are able to see time in a non-linear fashion. In which case, they see all time all at once.
Yeah.
Right? And the Bajoran people see the Prophets as gods. And then the Prophets use Ben Sisko as their emissary to speak to people who view time in a linear fashion. Right? Yeah. That's like Ben's role. And so Ben ends up becoming like this like religious figure for the Bajoran people. And at first Ben is really uncomfortable with this because the Federation and Starfleet, they have the Prime Directive. They're not allowed to take part in like alien politics unless or religion or anything like that.
You can't be a god.
Yeah, but in this case, like Ben is like in charge of Deep Space Nine, but like everyone sees him as like a religious figure, and you see him go forward through time. Because the thing is like unlike like some cases, he knows that the Prophets are real, right?
Well,
they're not necessarily God. Like for him, he's like it's like for them, it's like more of an argument of are they aliens or are they gods, right? Because the entities known as Prophets exist, right?
Yeah, I mean the Cardassians. Cardassians didn't believe in them.
Yeah, but then they didn't like actually talk to them. Like Ben was actually able physically to do it, and they had proof of like an entity inside the wormhole. The Cardassians weren't able to like research that wormhole.
Why not? I mean, they
didn't know about it.
It was hidden from them?
They didn't know about it until Starfleet found it.
Oh, okay.
Because they didn't know it was there. Because they didn't station. Remember, the satellite was originally stationed. Deep Space Nine was originally stationed around Bajor, but they moved it closer to the wormhole.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah, there was a big operation to move it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, the Cardassians never knew about the wormhole. And this is also another reason why Bajor becomes very important, because Bajor becomes close to this wormhole, right? They become, the closest things to, like, the new world, New World, so a lot of trade would go through them.
Yeah.
A lot of trade goes through them.
Yeah, and then what's Quark's race?
Ferengi,
yeah. And then the Ferengis came. They're like, okay, this is where we're gonna set up shop now.
Yeah. Let's go to Kira. So Kira represents the Bajoran people, and she is the second command because Starfleet is the ones in charge. But since it is also this is now Bajoran property, Bajor wants a presence on the ship as well.
Yeah.
And she is a former resistance fighter. So she fought against the Cardassians for the freedom of her people, right?
Yeah. So in this show, also what I would point out is the whole moral dilemma.
Yeah, there's a lot of moral dilemmas.
She did kill a lot of people.
Yeah, she killed many people. And not just the bad guys, she also killed her own people as well.
Oh.
They killed Bajoran. They also killed Bajorans.
Who were traitorous or something?
Or not even traitorous, but maybe they're just servants.
Oh.
If they were maybe they needed to assassinate a
Cardassian.
A political Cardassian, and that political Cardassian has Bajoran servants. They would kill those Bajoran servants too.
To get to them.
To get to them, right?
Yeah.
And then she was always they're the enemy.
Yeah,
right?
there was a lot of discussion about what's right or wrong kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she ends up being the second command because she's also well respected in the Bajoran community. And another thing too is her character. And here's the thing I really like about Deep Space Nine: they have a really good depiction of religion in a science fiction setting. Because usually in science fiction settings, when you see some sort of religion, people are usually very flippant about it. They take the approach of they look down on it, right? But Kira is shown to be very religious, very religious towards the prophets, and she sees Ben and respects him as a friend and also as a religious, as a religious entity,
Yeah.
Because Ben is the emissary.
Yeah, in the beginning though, their relationship.
Yeah, their relationship was very shaky, but from that shaky relationship, it grows stable and they become very close friends.
Yeah. Yeah, she respects his advice and stuff like that.
Yeah, and she is a very I would say she's a very strong female character. She never needs to be rescued.
Yeah.
She rescues herself and the people around her. She's the tough one. She's the tough girl.
Yeah. But at the same time, men do respect and they're attracted to that strength and
right. Man, Kira gets so many hot guys. she gets so many hot guys attracted to her, but it's unlike TNG, which really objectified them. It was more Kira had a lot of
healthy
relationships, except that bad things happened to the guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then she would also just she'd break up off camera with some of them too.
Oh really?
Yeah. She's oh yeah, we broke up.
Oh. Off camera,
off camera,
she doesn't get along with the guys.
No, off camera, as in they broke up,
you find out after she moves on.
Yeah, you find out after she moves on, right? It's oh yeah, we broke up. Okay, sure. Or you have cases like Vedic Belial who just dies, and she's no.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she was one of my she's one of my favorite characters. I think she was also one of your favorite characters too, just because of her strength. And another fun thing too is so the actress herself gets pregnant during the show, and the writers, instead of writing her off, explain away her pregnancy as another character who in storyline gets pregnant, but something happens and then Kira has to bear the child for her in a medical emergency.
Yeah.
In a medical emergency. So it was a nice way to like keep her in the show, but like explain why her belly's bigger, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's like
the way she walked also changed.
Yeah, and you know it's a really like good respectful way to like keep an actress on, because like in other shows they would just write them off, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would write them off the show, but in Star Trek they like made the effort to keep them in the show.
Yeah. Because even if it's not a TV show or a movie, when women get pregnant, you know, our careers come into jeopardy.
Yeah.
You have to choose.
Yeah, and so Star Trek is like pretty good in terms of like, all right, well, you're pregnant, we'll figure something out. You know?
Yeah.
And it's not the only time this happens. Like it happens in Voyager as well.
When?
With the half Klingon girl in Voyager. She was pregnant.
Half Klingon?
Yeah, the Klingon, the one that married.
Had a baby with Worf?
No, I'm talking about in Voyager.
Half Klingon.
The engineer. In Voyager.
Oh wait, she was really pregnant?
She was really pregnant. She was really
pregnant in real life?
She was pregnant in real life.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. She was pregnant in real life. She was pregnant in real life, so they, you know, like they
Wait,
right
so
around that.
The story was that she was pregnant with oh gosh, that white dude.
That white dude, yeah. Let's say that white dude. We'll do.
I forgot his name.
I did too, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I
so
didn't know that.
like
Okay,
yeah, she gets pregnant, but she actually had a baby in real life too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why their relationship, because like it didn't make sense in that storyline for them to come back together, because she's very like
temperamental.
Yeah, like yeah. I felt bad for him a lot. Yeah. But anyways, let's not go into.
Let's not go into Voyager. We have another. We'll talk about Voyager another time. But so yeah, Kira's a great character.
Yeah.
Tough, and we'll go into Kira's character more when we talk about another character.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Odo. Odo he's a changeling, a shapeshifter. He is made out of goo.
Mm-hmm.
He is like a blob, and he can transform into anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he feels like an outsider to like the people around him. Yeah. And the only thing he really has faith in is the justice system, the law. So he represents law and order on the ship. He's all about
logic and like adhering to strict rules.
Yeah, and he kind of has like that feeling of like, you know, like Data from like TNG, except a little bit different. Yeah. He knows what emotions are. But he's like an outsider. He is the outsider's perspective on like the human condition, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't eat, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't eat because he's made out of goo. And we find out that the alien species, because at first his alien species are unknown to us, but then we find out that he belongs to an alien race known as the Founders.
Mm-hmm.
And they like rule over the other side of the wormhole.
Yeah.
Under the Dominion.
They didn't know about the wormhole either.
Yeah, they didn't know about the wormhole either.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
They're way more powerful than the
Federation. Yeah, they're way more powerful, and they like rule over their side of their galaxy with like an iron fist.
Mm-hmm. And it's explainable because the story gets into how they were oppressed and
like how they were just like they aren't liked because they're significantly different from everyone else, and so they're like the only way we can protect ourselves is to just conquer everything.
Yeah, I mean the ultimate goal was to just destroy every life.
Yeah.
So that.
Or just rule it. Like they did want to destroy. Okay. Everything. Yeah. All right.
At the end.
Yeah.
Because it's revealed at the end that was their main goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was scary.
Yeah, like and then Odo finds love too. Like he ends up falling in love with Kira.
Yeah.
Because they have a very strong relationship.
He had a long crush.
He had a very long. It was like it's kind of like one of those things where when you saw Kira hook up with another guy, you're just like, oh no, Odo. You just kind of think of Odo, who's just like watching Kira, like, and just he just sighs, and then he's like, oh okay, I suppose so.
He always has that like sad look on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then and a lot of it is also juggling like his alliances with his friends, because his all of his friends are part of the Federation, part of Bajor, but then he has to conflict that with his actual like race, like his people.
Yes.
Right, because those alliances tend to come in conflict with one another.
Yeah, and he had a lot of identity issues.
Yeah, he had a lot of identity issues. He even got exiled and got turned into a human, humanoid for a bit, where he turned solid and had to deal with that again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gains his powers back. Yeah, because like his race of people, they're basically like a pool.
Yeah, like they're goo, and then they have they call it the Great Link. They have a Great Link, and pretty much like they just like meld together, and that's essentially their sex. There's an episode dealing with Odo's sex, like I would call Odo's sex addiction, where he was just completely he just forgets everything. He like they're relying on him to like kick the Cardassians out, turn a switch at the right time so that they can like kick the Cardassians out of Deep Space Nine, and he just completely forgets because he's like too busy having like Great Link sex.
Yeah.
And it has ramifications too, has deep ramifications because like they get caught and they have to like escape, and then like they're all imprisoned. So yeah. They asked him like, Odo, what's up? He's like, I don't care.
Yeah, their life is so much bigger than you guys.
Like,
I don't care about you guys, because like he can live forever. Like even if air disappears, like he can survive in like
so the shapeshifters like can live anywhere. They can live for all eternity. So and that's what makes them feel like they're outsiders too, right? Yeah,
that's true.
So next on our list, let's talk about Julian Bashir. He is the Doctor on Deep Space Nine. I think he's of Indian heritage. They don't really make it very clear, because apparently like his middle name is Mongol, because when they mention his middle name, it's like actually like a Mongolian middle name.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like hundreds of years into the future.
Yeah, so like hundreds of years into the future, everyone's gonna like have like mixed ancestry, right? And I think the actor himself, because I think the writers originally intended to have him more have an Indian like heritage, right? But the actor himself actually said, no, don't do that. Like I don't really want you to do that.
Okay.
Just make it like as ambiguous as possible, please.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. And
I'm interested to hear from him why he decided that.
And it's interesting because they when in the season 1 he's booked as kind of like this like suave like ladies man, right?
Yeah, like a player.
Like kind of a player, hits on everyone. On
Jadzia especially.
Yeah, on Jadzia especially. But then like he ends up becoming kind of more like an awkward dork.
Yeah.
Like he ends up being portrayed later on as like a dork who tries to be very suave, but is just a dork on the inside, and has zero game.
Yeah, like he forms a friendship with Miles O'Brien.
Yep.
And then Miles O'Brien is a family man. So they kind of like talk about that aspect.
Yeah.
Like, because Bashir wants to be seen as this, like, oh, I don't need a family to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But in actuality, he kind of does want to have a stable relationship.
Yeah. And another thing, too, with Bashir is that his heart is for helping other people, too. Right. And he has a bit of an ego starting out, because I remember
he's super smart.
Yeah. And I remember his first interaction with Kira in the first episode, where he's like, oh yes, I'm in frontier space, I'm going to be helping the downtrodden, the downtrodden, and like, stuff like that. And Kira's like, yeah, fuck you.
Oh.
Like, she's like, fuck
off. He was very idealistic.
Yeah, he's very idealistic. And Kira's like, actually like, no, like, don't look down on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, oh, okay. And he ends up being like really more respectful towards like, in the future, his cockiness goes down, and he is kind of like he is devoted to his work. He's all about helping other people.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was an episode where he goes to this planet where people don't live long or something.
Yeah.
And he tries to find a cure for. Apparently, it was the Cardassians who. It was like a bioweapon.
Yeah, I think it might have been the founder. It might have been the founders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, there was a planet where people had very short lifespans, and they were like, they were quick to, they died really fast. And Bashir decided to be like, hey guys, leave me down here. Go on without me. I'll keep I'll keep communications up, but I'm gonna try to help these people out.
Yeah, he wanted to find the cure before he left.
Yeah, and his like hardness even goes to his enemies too.
Yeah.
When they get captured by Jem'Hadar, and the Jem'Hadar are pretty much like soldiers who are bred by the founders to just fight their battles. And the way that the founders keep control of them is that the Jem'Hadar are always taking this drug called the White.
Ketris White?
Yeah, Ketris White. And the White and they are addicted to this White.
Yeah, it's like, what is it? The white drug.
Yeah, but Crack, yeah.
It's like crack.
But yeah, and they can't live without, can't live without it. So there's a group of Jem'Hadar who actually like hide away, and they're like saying, "Oh, is it possible to get off our addiction? Can we live without White?"
Yeah, because there was this Jem'Hadar who. Oh, and there's also another thing about Jem'Hadar. They don't live long.
No, and a lot of it is due to the White too.
Yeah.
But Bashir, like, despite the risk of like curing the Jem'Hadar, Bashir wants to help them out.
Yeah. Because he was their hostage.
Yeah, he was their like they kidnapped him, right?
Yeah.
They kidnapped him, and he's like. And he listens to them. He's like, "Oh, I still want to help you."
Yeah.
And that's like a whole.
That was an interesting.
Yeah, and that's another thing that speaks to Julian's character too. He also has like a thing about like he wants to be kind of like a suave spy too. Like in the holo suites, he's like, "Oh, let me He's always playing these like spy role playing
like
things.
007.
Yeah, like 007. They have a couple 007 episodes with him too.
Yeah. That must be his interest in real life.
Yeah.
Just like how Jean-Luc was into Shakespeare.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see.
And so let's talk about Jadzia Dax. So Dax is the science officer, and she is a Trill, and specifically she is a Trill with a symbiote inside of her. And so her name is Jadzia, and Dax is the name of the symbiote that resides in her. And Dax is centuries years old, right? And the host body, when the host body dies, the symbiote gets transferred to a new body.
Yeah.
So Jadzia has gone through 8 lifetimes worth of experiences.
Or Dax.
Yeah, Dax has gone through, but Dax inherits all of those memories and like all of those experiences too.
You mean Jadzia?
Yeah, Jadzia inherits all of those.
She can access the memories for different skills.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
And in the past life, Dax was the mentor of Benjamin Sisko as well. Yeah. And so originally, the original intention for the writers was that Jadzia was going to be kind of like the wise character who like was like, the pillar of like, like stability, support as like kind of the calm character. you know, like actually like the old man, like, you know, what you would expect from like an old man character. But the actress herself is super young too, right?
She was in her 20s?
Yeah, she was in her 20s during the airing of DS9. And
she did look older than 20s though.
Yeah. But but then in the next seasons they decided to flip. Instead of having like you know, like 8 lifetimes worth of wisdom and stuff like that, they decided to have Jadzia have 8 years worth of impulses. So she starts like partying, you know, she like parties really hard, you know.
Yeah.
She's really impulsive, and that, I think that
in one of the lifetimes also, like, there was a criminal.
Yeah.
A murderer.
Yeah, that was like one of the plot lines in what she had, where like we find out that one of her past lives they put the symbiote into the body of like a serial killer.
Yeah.
And then that like messed her up, and she's like trying to deal with like the serial killer inside of her. And another thing too is she has like this friendship with Klingons, you know, like this warrior race, and you know, like she has her friends come and is like, hey, we need your help. And she's like, yeah, I'll join you guys, you know. And that actually revolves around Jadzia actually marrying a Klingon, and she marries Worf from the Next Generation. Yeah, so that's fun. And then there's also like, you know, a sort of like Julian Bashir was like hitting on her a lot too. But yeah, she's not my favorite character.
No.
But she is, yeah, she's still a good cast member, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she's very strong.
Yeah, she is strong in her, like, different than like, you know, like Kira's like brute force strong, you know. Jadzia has her own strength. She is her own independent woman.
Yes.
She gets the respect of like other characters, like even characters like Quark, who is like a misogynistic character, right? But like, you know, she's like playing like Ferengi poker with, you know, with the other Ferengis, you know.
Because one of her lives.
Yeah, one of her lives, like she like interacted with the Ferengi a lot, and she was actually like, I would say she's like the most accepting of like other cultures too, of all like the characters, right? She has the most experience with like Klingons, Ferengi, and stuff like that, and she never really like judged. She never really like judged anyone.
Yeah.
So that's actually that's a good quality trait. That's a good quality trait.
It is. It is, yeah.
And especially, and it represents like, you know, like Star Trek, right?
Yeah, and she was also fearless.
Yeah.
And, you know, like with the whole joining the Klingons to battle.
Right.
Because I think Ben he's always worried about her.
Yeah, he's like, you aren't going to do anything crazy, and like Ben calls her old man.
Yeah, which was interesting.
Yeah, and so he's like, old man, you aren't going to do anything crazy, are you? And then she's like, Ben, you're getting too old. So yeah, Jadzia was a fun character. She brought in like a fun energy to the show.
Yeah. She later gets replaced.
Yeah. She ends up dying, and she dies in like a really hard, like really cold way that you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, and like it hits hard because she's married to Worf and they want to have children, right? And then they were trying, and then they end up actually being like, you know, Bashir finds a method where they can't have children. And then she's like, oh, I'm gonna go pray to the prophets. And then that's where, when she goes pray, that's where the attack happens, where one of the villains attacks, and then that villain kills her.
Yeah.
And it's like this really tragic moment. We're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Deep Space Nine really goes like places in terms of like how far they're willing to go. Yeah,
because
like another thing
I was speaking about like off mic.
Yeah.
About how in Deep Space Nine, when people die, they actually die.
Yeah. And another thing about Deep Space Nine is it tears down and really pushes the whole Starfleet, like the Starfleet code to its limits, right? And that it's not the most perfect thing, you know, it's not the most perfect utopia, right?
As far as the morals?
Like in terms of like morals, like like we've gotten rid of all like money, we've gotten rid of money, racism, like stuff like that. And it's like, no, that stuff's still there.
Yeah, because of the Ferengi and the Bajorans.
Yeah, but even within Starfleet, like there's a whole, because Cisco has to break a lot of Starfleet rules in order to protect it.
Yes.
And it's like the first time where like, in Star Trek where they kind of like show like the dark side of the world, like try to find the dark side of the world.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it still feels like Star Trek. It still feels very hopeful.
Yeah. It's not grimy. Is it called grimy?
Grimy.
As Picard.
Yeah, Star Trek Picard. And
dark.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is like we had TNG to like really build this like really hopeful world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get DS9 and we're like, oh man, DS9 is like bad things are happening to this world that we have grown attached to, right? And then DS9 like pushes that, and we're really invested in it, even though it's like it's changing, like it's kind of like has this like grimier, this grittier feeling to it, where things aren't all as like clean as we thought it was. We're still invested in it because we've seen like the really clean side too.
Yeah. Especially when the founders go to war with...
Yeah, when like they build this up so much where it's like the Dominion War.
Yeah.
Like they build up for seasons of like who are the Dominion, then
that's
like,
a cool name, by the way.
Yeah.
Dominion.
The Dominion. Yeah. Yeah, and it's such Deep Space Nine is my personal favorite show of the Star Trek series. I think yours is Voyager.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Deep Space Nine is my personal favorite. I think I do like the space. I personally, I think I do like gritty science fiction.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not into gritty.
Yeah, I like gritty science fiction.
Because I like escaping the real world instead of imagining it to be worse than it is.
Yeah.
So.
But all right. So let's go on. Let's go to Miles O'Brien. So Miles O'Brien, he's the head engineer of Deep Space Nine. He's a married man. He's married to an Asian woman, and at the start they have a child, right?
Yes.
And a lot of his issues tend to be like more like his relationship with his wife, because their situation is not the most ideal. Because Keiko, which is his wife, she is a botanist by her profession is botanist, but on the space station there's not really any need for a botanist, right?
Yeah.
And
so she had to figure things out.
She had to figure things out. She had to be a teacher, she tried being a teacher, but even that wasn't like the most perfect ideal situation. So
she did love it though, right?
Yeah,
she
but then she built a school, but then the school blew up.
Oh. The
school blew up too, and then they weren't able to really rebuild it.
Really?
Well, yeah, because like the parents didn't want to bring their kids, like even if they want to, like the parents didn't want to have their kids go to a school that
started back up again.
Yeah, but then like she also decided to just want to become a botanist too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then she would go on like research trips.
Trips to Bajor, yeah.
Yeah.
To the planet.
Yeah. And so Miles was an interesting case because he was a side character in The Next Generation starting out, where he was just kind of like the guy who pressed the transporter button.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, hey guys, and they're like, oh, hey, he's like, oh, hey, Brian, It's a very like minor role, but they end up giving him like episodes in TNG as well.
Yeah.
And so he was really well liked, and so they even he's like, oh yeah, I'll come in like once in a while, and then they ended up liking him so much, like, hey, we want you to be a main character on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And I'll be real, in Deep Space Nine, Miles, he suffers a lot. There's a joke that like Miles always suffers.
He
gets tortured so much. So there's an episode where he's committed of a crime on a planet, and the way that they do sentences on these people is that they make you live 20 years inside like a prison inside your own mind. So you have the experience of living in prison for 20 years, but in real life, like only a second has passed, right? So he goes and he's like in shock, like because he's like, I haven't seen my family in 20 years, but to his family, it's like, dude, you just went on a trip.
Oh, okay.
You know, and he's going through PTSD because in his memories he killed someone else in the prison,
a prisoner,
like another prisoner that was trying to help him. Right, and he's like dealing with like this traumatic situation, and like everyone's trying to like help him out, but he's kind of pushing away their help too.
I just realized the episode where he kills the older guy.
Yeah.
It kind of has the same feel as what is it? Not the Three Musketeers, like Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
The Count.
Oh, huh. I don't remember.
Oh, no, Monte Cristo.
The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
Right. Being like inside of a prison for so long, because like being in a prison for that long like traumatizes you, right?
Yeah, and then the whole mentor-mentee relationship with the older guy, right?
Yeah.
Except in the Count,
in the Count's case, he didn't kill him. The guy died of old age and was like, "You take my gold." It's like you try to find the gold without me, you know. Yeah. Count of Monte Cristo is a great book, by the way. You should try reading it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. A lot of side tangents, and it is like old, it is old literature. So be prepared for long tangents that really don't amount to anything.
Yeah.
But it's a good story. And then Miles, another thing is Miles gets accused of war crimes in the Cardassian court.
Yeah.
And in Cardassian court, they're like, oh, you're guilty. So this is really just like an apology. This is really just a YouTube apology video.
It's more like they assign him an attorney.
Yeah, but the attorney isn't there to actually make him innocent. The attorney is there to make his apology as entertaining as possible.
And to convince him that it is virtuous to die.
Yeah, to take the death sentence.
Yeah, because they just have death sentences for everything.
Yeah.
They're like a war-centered race.
And then, but the thing is that Miles is also kind of like, he's the most normal of the crew, which also provides like another like perspective on things. And in Star Trek, he is actually a non-commissioned officer. Which means he has the abilities he has like the responsibilities of an officer, but he hasn't gone through Starfleet.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't gone through Starfleet because like not everyone can be part of Starfleet, and like there's so many. It's so hard to get into Starfleet, but these starships are so huge that they need crew members. They need crew members. They need people. They need cooks. They need janitors.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So those are non-commissioned officers. Those are non-commissioned officers.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, and so he ends up being really great friends with Bashir.
Yeah.
And he kind of like grounds Bashir a lot too. And
there's this thing about like how O'Brien doesn't want to be seen as liking Bashir, right? As being friends with him.
It's kind of like the whole like it's like toxic masculinity, where like you don't want to be seen as being like too friendly, stuff like that. Bromance. He's a bit gruff, like he's a bit gruff.
Yeah.
But like him and Bashir are really close friends. They like play darts together. They like go into the Hollow Suites and pretend to like fight the Battle of the Alamo.
Yeah. I mean, O'Brien really like
their friendship was really close.
Because Bashir was his only friend.
Yeah.
So like when Bashir is busy, he kind of feels a sort of way. Like he's like, don't you like me anymore?
Yeah. They like, and then they started out like not liking each other in their very first season, and then they had like a thing where like they almost died together, and then kind of like builds their relationship from there,
Yeah.
All right.
I loved seeing their progression.
Yeah. And when the last season came and Miles was like, "Hey, I'm leaving Deep Space Nine," and Bashir's like really sad. Like Bashir's like super sad about that. Bashir's like, oh no. You're like, oh no, Bashir.
Yeah.
And then next, let's go to our next main character, Quark. So Quark is the bar owner of DS9, and he's a Ferengi. So the Ferengi are an alien species that's all about greed.
Yes.
Their whole culture is based off of making money.
Yes, and they have this religious text.
Called the Rules of Acquisition.
So
and he's always quoting the Rules of Acquisition, right?
Rules of every acquisition, like it has a number.
Yeah, it has a number. Like, let's see, I remember one is like Rule of Acquisition number 32. War is great for profit. Rule of Acquisition number 33. Peace is great for profit. It's stuff like that. Or things like forests are temporary, but platinum is forever. So and this show does a really good job of contextualizing the Ferengi and actually making them more than just a joke.
Yes.
Right. Because in TNG,
they tend to be like clowns.
Yeah, they don't seem real.
Yeah.
They seem like they're just a joke species, right? Like you look at them, you're like, oh, they're there to be just like the weird bad guys that you don't take seriously. But in Deep Space Nine, you see a bit more nuance to their culture, right?
Yeah.
You see where they come from, and like you see like change in Ferengi culture, and Quark's also the brother of his. He owns the bar and he runs it with Rom, and Rom is the he's played off initially as like the really dumb brother, right?
Yeah.
And he even talks he talks in a funny voice like this, and you don't really take it too seriously, and but the thing is, you find out that he is actually like an engineering savant.
Yeah.
He's really smart, and he is able to like make all these like cool engineering solutions to these problems that they have. He's saved Deep Space Nine multiple times throughout the series.
Yeah.
But like the Ferengi culture, they value making money.
Yes.
And they do not value like engineering skills because they could like pay someone else to do that. Or they take that technology from they steal it, they hustle it from someone else, right?
Yeah, another race. Or
yeah.
Also, since he started working for the Federation, he doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. He ends up working for the Federation as an engineer, and the Federation doesn't pay people.
Yeah.
Because they don't use money.
Yeah.
And also, like, you might think, oh, why, like, the Federation, like, how can they do anything if, like, they don't pay anyone? Well, there are replicators in this universe. You can make anything with replicator, right? Anything you wanted, you can replicate it. Like food, clothing, anything, like, anything you wanted. So, like, the replicators are kind of like an explanation of why, like, there is no money, because why do you need money if you can replicate anything?
I just made a connection in my mind.
Yeah.
Something about the universal basic income.
Yeah.
And so basically, Ferengis also have replicators, but they still believe so much in making money.
Yeah.
That it's hard for them to get out of that mindset.
Right.
So, it's really important to change your belief before you change the way you look at money.
Yeah. And Quark has a lot of interesting episodes actually too. Like because he has a lot of episodes that go into like greed, and also like sometimes he has to like work with his conscience too. Because he's made friends on Deep Space Nine, and he doesn't exactly want to like throw his friends under the bus, right? But he's he's connected to like the criminal underbelly too.
Yeah. I mean, Kira doesn't trust him.
Kira does not trust him.
She's always like, oh, Odo and Kira don't trust him. Both of them, they're like.
But Odo and Quark have this strange, fun rivalry friendship thing going on.
It is
where they miss each other when the other one's gone.
Yeah, because Odo gets bored easily.
Yeah, Odo. Yeah, and then Odo's like, he's so much Quark is more interesting than these like other criminals that are trying, other criminals. And Quark's like, man, it's too easy when Odo's not around. I'm not at my best when Odo's not around.
Yeah. He doesn't perform at his best.
Yeah. And yeah, that's just like a fun relationship that we have, like with like the kind of the seedier character with like the lawful character, And another thing that we talked to is that Rom has a son named Nog.
Yes.
And
Nog is the best friend of Jake.
Yeah, Nog and Jake become friends, and it's really interesting because like Quark and Ben are like, "Yo, these two can't be friends." Like, bad influence. They both say it at the same time too. They're like, "Your son is a bad influence."
Yeah, because in the Ferengi culture, money is really important.
Yeah.
But then Jake was telling Nog about like, oh, you don't. Something about like they both had influences on each other.
Yeah, they both influence each other, and like Ferengi, like they don't treat humans with respect. They're like, oh, you humans.
Yeah.
It's so great, and Nog, he starts the show off as like a little prick. He's the worst.
I really didn't like him.
Yeah, like he would be like him and Jake had this episode where like, oh, like we're gonna go on a double date.
Yeah.
And then Nog's like, oh, female, chew my food for me. And then the girl's like, what?
Yeah.
And then like he's like, oh, like what? And then Jake's like, oh, hey, like how's your research paper? He's like, oh, it's so good. And then Nog says, oh, look at this female trying to talk at the dinner table. And then the girls just leave, and Jake's like, Nog, the heck, like what the heck, man? And then Nog's like, what did I do?
Yeah, I was so pissed off. I was like getting irked by everything he was saying. Oh my god.
But Nog has like the greatest turnaround, because Nog always like has these episodes. Nog gets these episodes of like, oh, he's trying to make money, He has all these schemes. He has all these schemes, and then one episode he goes to Ben and is like, Ben, like, hey, Mr. Cisco, I want to join Starfleet. Can you sponsor me? Can you sponsor me to join to go to the academy?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben, throughout the entire episode, is like, what's your deal here?
Yeah, what's the
thing? Like, what's the thing? What's your scheme here?
Yeah.
And then he goes to the thing. Is like, I'm not signing it. I need to know what your scheme is. And then you see, Nog has this really heartful speech of, I have no scheme. My only scheme is that I'm a terrible Ferengi. I'm terrible at making money, and I need to get out of this life.
Yeah. He sees how his
dad is treated in the Ferengi. By his brother, and like other Ferengi too. And he doesn't want that life. So he's like, he wants to escape that life, and he wants to join Starfleet. Mm-hmm. And Ben, after hearing that like heartfelt speech, like accepts that, gives him the commendation, and Nog gets accepted into the academy.
Yeah. He studied hard.
He studies hard and he passed, and then he ends up going back to Deep Space Nine as like an ensign wearing the Starfleet clothes.
Yeah.
And he becomes a very like respectful character. He is the first Ferengi to join Starfleet.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the actor who played Nog died recently.
Oh.
Within like the last year or so.
Oh.
And so heart goes out to him, like his family, stuff like that. But yeah, like Nog is a character that most of the fan base really likes. It's kind of like when you have like a bad character and they clean up their act. You have a whole lot of respect for them, right?
Yeah. I think at the end you see him as like owning his own ship and stuff like that.
like in the future, like you have a flash forward in alternate reality where he's like a captain of a ship. He's a space captain, and like Nog like straight up loses a leg in the war.
Oh yeah. He deals with PTSD.
He has a really good episode dealing with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he is shown to be
He was depressed.
Yeah, he was very depressed for a while. He's just scared. because he lost his leg.
Yeah, he loses like.
They grow it back. He doesn't permanently lose his leg.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's supposed to be fake.
Yeah, he ends up having a limp,
Yeah.
But you find out that, like, he doesn't actually have a limp,
Oh, it's all in his mind.
It's all in his mind.
Oh, yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah, so, and then here's the thing. Nog is what Wesley should have been from the next generation,
Yeah.
Where Wesley was shown to be as, like, perfect at everything, and so, like, and then, like, it was the worst thing part about Wesley is he failed to get into Starfleet, like, 3 times.
Yeah.
And then, like, nearly drops out too, right?
Yeah, because of an incident.
Yeah, near an incident, and then you just have Nog, who's just like, oh yeah, he started out, like, as, like, kind of a jerk, like the worst character. And then ends up becoming the best, like, and then cleans up his act. And it's like, we as the audience like seeing that, right? You always like seeing the person who is, like, not the best person, just, like, and end up doing good for themselves, right?
I actually don't know why Wesley is hated. Like, I don't hate him. I don't resent him.
Yeah, I think it's just in his in the episodes he's in, he's kind of smarmy. He shares Gene Roddenberry's middle name is Wesley, so you get the feeling it's like Gene Roddenberry, like.
But you only find out with research. But if you didn't know that.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, and I've heard people saying that they weren't able to continue on with TNG because of, like, Wesley.
Oh my goodness, that's a loss. Like, you can watch TNG.
Yeah, I think so too, right?
That's okay.
And like, Wesley is what actively stops people from continuing on with TNG.
Wow, okay.
So, like, there is, like, some, like, it's
deep. I think they're just envious of the character.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's also the fact that, like, he doesn't treat anyone with respect either. That's another thing too. Like, Wesley doesn't. He's always like, "Oh, like, why don't you know that?" And everyone's like, "Shut up, kid."
Yeah.
He treats the main cast with respect. His character not like the actor or anything like that. The character treats the main cast with respect, but no one else.
That's true. Yeah, that might be why people hate him.
Like, just like the regular employees, he treats them like dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gets to be on.
He gets to be like a junior. Yeah, he gets to pilot the Enterprise, and he's not even an ensign.
Yeah.
Like, he's a civilian, and, like, they're treating him with, like, super special. Like, he's treated super specially for, like, absolutely no reason at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's the favorite of Picard.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and that's like nepotism. That's nepotism right there, right?
Wait, what's his mom's name?
Beverly?
Yeah. So Beverly is, like, this ex-lover of Picard, but they're, like, still.
They were trying to do something. It's complicated. I feel like they had a plotline with that, but then they just decided to drop it completely.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they don't have any titles for their relationships. They just, like, they have a cup of tea.
They have breakfast now and again,
It's pretty, it's a respectful relationship.
Yeah, but, like, Wesley, like, people do not like Wesley. And, like, Nog is kind of like Wesley done well, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because Nog, when he interacts with Cisco, he's very, like, Mr. Cisco.
Yeah.
Like, he's always like, sir.
Yeah.
Like, very, very, very respectful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, like, the rest of the cast ends up getting like, a respect for Nog as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So next, we go to my favorite character in Star Trek, Worf. Worf makes a return around, like, season 4, season 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that the Klingons decide to just straight up just attack Cardassia. because they're tired of Cardassians making attacks, you know, and they're like, we'll just take over, and it's actually a plot by the Dominion because they've infiltrated their leadership and are now manipulating the Klingons to go to war with Cardassia. And so Worf is brought in as sort of like the Federation's in with the Klingon culture but Worf at this point, he's still exiled.
Exiled from
Klingon. Yeah, he's exiled from like the Klingon like social structure, right? He is without family.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They have it's a
like an honor based.
It's a culture that's like revolves around war and honor.
So he is without honor, without a family, and it's like kind of like
I don't like their culture, by the way. Like that might be why I didn't warm up to him.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm just like, oh gosh, you don't have to like kill all the time.
Yeah.
Or like prove your masculinity. Right?
Yeah.
It isn't like because there's the whole toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right? How do you reconcile his character with the Klingon culture?
And they're aliens. I don't think too hard on it.
Yeah.
I don't think too hard on it. But yeah, I mean, and you know, I'm a guy. I like muscular. I like fighting. You know, like I like it when it's like muscular fighting. You know, I like that sort of thing. You know, like I like that sort of thing.
And I think their culture is, you know, like from the human world.
Yeah.
It's closer to Japanese culture. That might be why you're interested in it.
Maybe. I think it's more closer to Mongolian culture.
Oh, okay. Are they all about honor?
Well, I don't know. I think like the whole thing about honor is also like an outdated thing in Japanese culture too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like it's not exactly. It's just it's alien enough. I like orcs in like fantasy worlds too. You know, fantasy worlds too. I like warrior cultures in general.
Okay.
You know, just from like a culture, you know, just like reading on like as a culture how they developed. I like warrior cultures in general. That's why I like in fiction.
Oh, that's why you were into Mongolian.
Yeah, history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just enjoy reading about warrior cultures, and that's why I like Klingons.
Interesting.
You know.
Okay.
And that's it. I just like seeing warrior cultures. I like seeing orcs in like, you know, other fantasy realms in like Warcraft and like D&D and stuff like that. You know, I just like that sort of thing. But Worf is and you know, like Worf is like the most chill of all the Klingons too, you know. In comparison, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't he more religious though?
Well, he has his religion, but like he's also the one who's like, I'm not going to just go on a bloody murder spree.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I think TNG kind of like tempered his religiosity. Oh, but then there was also this
because they had the episode dealing with
the story arc about him.
Like what was it? Like the Klingon Jesus, yeah, with Klingon Jesus. But like him actually hanging out with Jadzia helps temper him down.
Yeah.
You know, all things considered, and they treat Worf with respect in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Like Worf gets to be the strong guy in Deep Space Nine. In TNG, like you see him get thrown across the like bridge like 5 times, like every episode. Because in TNG, how can you show off that the alien is a big threat? By having the alien take out the biggest guy in the room, which was Worf.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in TNG, you have the whole thing of, you know, like they're in prison, and then like the Jem'Hadar have this ritual of like, oh, you have to fight like 100 of us.
Oh,
and then Worf fights them all. Like, Worf fights them all. You're like, yeah, go Worf!
Yeah, the Jem'Hadar had this thing about Klingons.
Yeah.
They had this fascination about their culture.
Yeah.
Because the Jem'Hadar themselves, they don't have a culture.
Yeah.
Because they're not...
Mm-hmm.
They were, like, created in a lab.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it was another thing that like bothered me about the whole like founders.
Yeah.
They became really evil in my eyes because like they created a
these
whole
slave
race of people.
Yeah, they create these slave races pretty much.
Yeah. Who can't live without the
white.
Tetrasil white.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they got they have to answer to another race.
Race of people that like give like that they handle like.
Do you remember their name?
I forgot the name of their species, but they handle like all the administrative work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like, they handle like all the political stuff. They handle all the things.
One of my favorite character, Wei Yoon.
Yeah.
He is of that race that controls the Jem'Hadar.
Mm-hmm.
And gives them the Tetrasil white.
Yeah.
When they show that they're willing to give their lives to the founders.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like if you've watched Mad Max.
Yeah.
Where how like all the men or the boys, they're like, witness me.
Oh yeah, for that one guy. Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Wei Yoon. He was my favorite, one of my favorite characters. He's very like slimy kind of.
Yeah, and he is like the thing is that Wei Yoon is like, because these races are like pretty much like clones, right?
Yeah.
They can be cloned. He dies so many times and then comes back as like Wei Yoon 7.
Yeah. Oh, and there was like one clone of him who was pretty good.
Yeah, he tried to escape and like grew a conscious, but then he ended up dying too.
Yeah, he gave himself up
to protect Odo, I think.
Yeah, that was an interesting.
Yeah. But let me talk about Worf.
Okay.
You skipped him.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry that you don't like my favorite character. All right, but so Worf has done pretty well, like in this series. Like he gets time to shine, you know. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, in TNG, like they're always like, oh no, Worf, we have to like, even like Worf is like there being like, Captain, they're aiming their guns at us. Can I raise shields?
Yeah.
And Picard's like, no, we must talk to them. You know, it's like, Captain, this is my job to give the violent answer to the solution. You know, because he's in TNG, he's the tactical officer.
Yeah,
he's
and
head
they
of security.
get attacked a lot.
They get attacked so much.
Yeah.
And Worf is just trying to do his job of like
keeping everyone.
Captain, can I at least power up weapons? Please, they're already firing at us, you know. And Picard's like, no, we cannot. We must talk to them peacefully.
Shields and
then you have DS9 where Cisco's like, Worf, why haven't you shot these guys yet? And Worf's like, oh shit, okay.
Oh really?
Well, yeah, because Deep Space Nine takes place during a war.
Yeah.
So Worf being a war man is actually very beneficial to that, to them all, right?
Yeah, it's weird to be in a satellite that can't travel.
Well, that's why they have the Defiant. They have the Defiant actually, which gives them the ability to go around, right?
Worf lives in the Defiant.
Yeah, Worf ends up being like living in the Defiant, which is like the spaceship in his like own bachelor pad. It's pretty funny. And then, like Worf is a dork too. Like he has his own, like he likes his music. He likes like Klingon opera, And he, like, I've already talked a lot about Worf in TNG, but like in here he also like meets Jadzia. He also meets Jadzia, and then like grows to respect Jadzia, and like they end up getting married.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like Worf was at his best with when he was with Jadzia personally in this series, because Jadzia like kind of like calmed him, like Jadzia was kind of there to be like, oh hey, like chill,
mm-hmm.
or like, hey, like you don't have to live up to like big Klingon, like like you don't have to live up to like being Klingon, because Worf is very insecure about his Klingonness, right? He's very insecure as a Klingon.
He gets adopted by
Martok in the Martok family. Because like Martok he and Martok ended up in prison, and Martok's like, yo, this guy's really cool. I'm gonna adopt you.
Yeah, Martok was pretty.
Martok was great. Martok was dope.
Yeah,
you know,
he's chill. Like
yeah,
he's kind of like what is it? He's not corruptible.
Yeah.
Like all
like a lot of members of the Klingon High Council are like super corrupt, you know, and Martok's like, nah, I'm true Klingon, you know, and like I really like that his relation, you know, like Worf's relationship with Martok, you know, and like Worf because Worf kind of like grows through Deep Space Nine, you know.
Yeah, because Alex.
Yeah.
His son
is
half quarter human.
Yeah, quarter human. Yeah, and then I mean, like that's the one thing I feel like could have done better too. Like I will fully admit, Worf has his flaws, you know, but I like him because like he kind of realizes that he has his own flaws, right? You know, like
because he basically abandons his son.
Yeah, he basically abandons his son, and he recognizes he abandoned his son too. Like,
you know, that might be why he's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Because that was pretty annoying to see. Yeah. I mean, I know that's what they try to
rectify.
To show that, you know, like he's a complicated
character.
Yeah.
And like Worf. Worf. I mean, Worf has a lot of moments too because he's given a command position too. In Deep Space Nine, he ends up being like the captain of the Defiant for like when Cisco's not there, and there's a whole episode of like Worf. Pretty much, I feel like the episode revolved about Worf nearly shooting down like a civilian craft or something like that, and like he ends up being fine in the end, but Worf isn't happy about it, and Cisco is like you know, like, hey Worf, come to the party, you know, your celebration party. He's like, I don't really want to go, like I don't want to go, and Cisco like says like, you made the decision, you know, like you made the decision, but you have to keep up, you know, like a happy face for the crew, you know, like he and Cisco have like, they're not as friendly, like Worf isn't as close as friends with everyone else as compared to the Enterprise. Because the Enterprise, everyone was like best friends.
Yeah.
But in Deep Space Nine, like, not everyone is best friends with each other.
In real life.
In real life, and like also like in character in the ship too, right?
Okay.
Like Worf doesn't really hang out with Kira, or like he doesn't really talk too much with Bashir. He doesn't really get along with Bashir. You know, they have like.
Were they enemies?
They have a weird Korean love triangle in like I would call it a K-drama style love triangle when Jadzia Dax comes into play, because Jadzia dies and her symbiote gets placed into Ezri, and then Worf is kind of like, am I into Ezri? And then Bashir is getting into Ezri too, and Ezri's like, oh, I got all these memories in my head. Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like Worf in that part too, because kind of going on a little creepy.
That was like.
I really didn't like that. But I didn't like that whole like weird whole love triangle subplot either.
I mean, you could explain that away because he was trying to have a baby with Jadzia.
Yeah, he was in love with Jadzia, and he just lost his wife.
Yeah.
You know. So that does explain things, but it was kind of a weird subplot.
Yeah.
I didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
I know, like I like Worf because he has all these flaws, and then he also has a lot of cool moments. And at least in Deep Space Nine, he has a lot of cool moments. And then his character goes from like this really like flat 2D character, you know, like 2D character with not a lot going on, to a really like fleshed out character too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now let's talk about Garrick. So Garrick is a tailor, and he is
Cardassian.
He's a Cardassian, but you find out he's a bit more than a tailor. He is a member of the Obsidian Order of Cardassia, a former member of the Obsidian Order, and the Obsidian Order is kind of like the kind of like the CIA or like the FBI of Cardassia, or the KGB, you know, like the secret agent, like they're the secret agents of Cardassia. They do all like the dirty work.
It's even like more obscure than CIA.
Yeah, level. Like it's like secret organization. Secret. Yeah, and Garrick is like Garrick is the son of the leader. Pretty much, we find out later, and he is a lot of people's favorite characters.
Yeah.
You know, because he's always talking in innuendo, right? He's always like he becomes really close friends with Bashir.
Yeah, actually. He has these like parables he comes up with.
Yeah, and in when you first meet him, he's always like kind of saying like half truths about his past, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an episode where he's like, because he has a device in him that gives him pleasure in any case of when he's being tortured, right?
Oh, okay.
And the problem is that in Deep Space Nine, because Cardassians are used to very warm temperatures, you know?
Yeah.
And Garrick actually has an issue of claustrophobia. And the spaceship kind of also gives him the station gives him a feeling of claustrophobia as well. So he's always just turned this thing on all the time. He's turned his torture suppression device on all the time, and Bashir is the one who helps him through this.
Yeah, because he gets addicted to it.
Yeah, he gets addicted to it.
It became really painful.
It becomes really painful because you're not supposed to have it on all the time. You know? And it just starts to degrade, and he ends up going through like withdrawals, sort of. And then Bashir's trying to help him out, and he tells Bashir like 5 different stories of his 5 different stories that could be his backstory.
Yeah.
And then Bashir's like, so which ones were lies and which ones were truths? And he's
like,
he was, and then Garrick says, oh, they were all real, especially the lies, you know. And it's such a good quote. Or there's an episode where Bashir has to fight a psychic entity inside his brain, and he's replaced parts of his psyche with members of the crew. Yeah. And the one he puts representing deception, lies, and deceit was Garrick.
Yeah.
And when he tells Garrick this, and Garrick's like, so you placed me as the representation of deception, lies, and betrayal. There's hope for you yet. You know, it's like... He is such a good character.
Yeah. He's a very complex character.
He's very complicated too.
Yeah.
And I think the actor himself, mentioned that like he played Garrick, and he like kind of like played Garrick as if like Garrick were gay. You know, and like you kind of see that, you know, like
bisexual.
Yeah, or bisexual. I think he's bisexual because he does have that weird like love interest in that one part of the storyline. But Garrick, I imagine, and Garrick has his own flaws too. He has his own phobias, his fears, you know, and it's always interesting seeing him interact with a lot of the other characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
He like has an episode with Ben where Ben needs he needs like something, a favor from Garrick, right? And Garrick's like, oh, okay, sure. And it involves like Garrick kind of pulling one over on Ben and just like assassinating a couple people instead. And
no, I think that was the plan all along.
No. He didn't tell Ben about that part of the plan. Ben only found out about it after the fact.
Oh.
But Ben was just...
okay.
But pretty much when the Dominion attacks, the Federation's like fighting a losing war, so they need to get the Romulans to get into the battle. So Ben goes to Garrick and to be able to fabricate some evidence to get the Romulans his side with them, right?
Yeah. To convince them to join the war.
Garrick finds a guy to forge the evidence and goes through all these underground methods to make like a recording. And then the ambassador comes in to see this evidence, and the ambassador calls Ben out. I was like, this is fake. We're going to take this with us, go to Romulus, and then we're going to show everyone your fake, this fake recording, right? And then they go, and then the ship explodes. And then Ben's like, what happened here? And then the guy who made the evidence was killed.
Oh, along with the evidence?
Not along with the evidence, but just like killed in a separate occasion.
Oh, okay.
And so Garrick was like, oh yeah, like I blew up the ship. And Ben's like, what the heck? Why'd you blow up the ship? And then Garrick's like, well, the ship's gonna blow up, and the Romulans are gonna recover the only thing that's left, which is a recording, which they will assume that all the flaws in the recording are due to the explosion, and that way, and now the Romulans are going to team up with the Federation now.
Yeah.
You know, and like Cisco's really mad because he's like, and he like punches Garrick because Garrick didn't tell him about it. You know, right?
Yeah. But if he told Ben, then
Ben would have given it. Yeah, Ben would have given it away because like Ben is Federation, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Garrick is definitely the one who does all like the deceitful thing.
Yeah.
You know, he does all the deceitful
all
things.
The dirty stuff that no one wants to do.
Yeah, but like he's there, and he's as an ally, he's very strong. He's very strong as an ally.
Yeah.
They rely on him a lot.
They do, yeah. When they can't solve a problem, they're like, well, Garrick will know.
Yeah, Garrick will know what to do. Yeah, and he's just a fun person.
Yeah,
he's a fun character, and he has like the most like depth to him, you know.
Yeah, he's kind of like an alpha man. I feel like.
Yeah.
Like he's very like abrasive, or what is it? He's very complex. Like you can't just like put him in a box.
Yeah, right.
So.
Okay, and now let's talk about our other favorite Cardassian character, Gul Dukat. And Gul Dukat I think Gul Dukat's the best villain of Star Trek.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and the thing is with Gul Dukat is he's not even the villain all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's times where Gul Dukat is an ally to everyone else in certain cases, right?
Yeah, but he switches.
But he switches sides so many times, and I think the writers have him being like a very flexible character. Like he's a flexible character; he can fit any role. You know, but it means that we hate him so much more when he like betrays everyone. You know, because you always have these things of like you see Gul Dukat and you're like, I think he's redeemable. He has these. He's a jerk, right? But he has reasons for why he did things, and he has aspects that he's redeemable. Like he asks Kira to help rescue his daughter. You know, and he even and he has the choice of either killing his daughter and preserving his Cardassian honor, or like throwing away his Cardassian honor in order to live with his daughter.
Yeah, so
a relationship with his daughter.
His daughter is half Bajoran.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening is he like abandons everything to essentially to accept his daughter. You know, and that's a really strong moment that we as an audience really like, right? We're like, oh man, we haven't seen his family on Cardassia.
No.
So that doesn't really come up. But we see him like accept this. But then he betrays everyone by accepting an alliance with the Dominion and allows the Dominion to invade.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't see that coming either. And so when it happened, we're like, oh no! and then we're like, oh, Gul Dukat, you're so evil.
Yeah.
And then Gul Dukat's like back to being evil again.
Yeah, I think that happened after his daughter dies, or
no, it was before.
Oh, okay.
It was during that there was like a transitionary period where like he wants his daughter to come with him, but his daughter doesn't want to.
Oh, okay.
And then during that whole thing, like his assistant, his second in command, kills the daughter.
Oh, okay.
And then like he like runs off, and then the second in command becomes the new commander. Remember, the second in command becomes the new like Cardassian leader.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was weird. It's like, anyways, yeah, it's a military kind of culture, so.
Yeah, but yeah, it was really Gul Dukat, and Gul Dukat has like this rivalry with Cisco too, because Cisco is the commander of what he used to command.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's like this rivalry between the two, and it even gets to the point where Cisco's the emissary of the prophets, and then Gul Dukat becomes like the emissary of the Pa Wraiths, which are the anti-prophets essentially, and they have a whole like fight, together, and Kira has a sort of like hate, like like friendship, hatred for Dukat. And Kira is like a nice like representation of what the audience should really be feeling about Dukat throughout the series. When Kira hates Dukat, he's doing something that like we hate. Yeah. And then when Kira is like, maybe I can trust you, and then we as audience are like, Kira's saying maybe we can trust him, so maybe we can trust him, right? Okay. And then when he betrays us again, Kira's like, oh no, Dukat's the worst. And we're like, yeah, Kira, Dukat's the worst.
Yeah, there was an episode where she goes to the prophets and they take her back in time.
Mm-hmm. And then she sees her mother, who like she essentially is a mistress, so that she and like Kira and the rest of her family can like go on Bajor and like live a comfortable life and get money. But then the mother actually starts to fall in love with Gul Dukat. Yeah. And then Kira's like, what the heck is going on?
That was a weird
episode. That was a weird episode.
Because he likes Kira.
Yeah,
and his mom, like her mom.
It's weird. It's
like,
weird. Okay. It's so weird. It's really weird. But Dukat's a very flawed character.
Yeah.
Flawed in a way where we hate him.
Yeah, because he's a war criminal.
Like, he's a war criminal, but he like gives himself reasons why he is justified. He's like, I would have, like, if it was another Cardassian, they would have treated the Bajorans a lot worse, like, that was his justification.
Yeah.
And, like,
it's a complex he has.
It's a complex he has,
like,
yeah.
Because if he really didn't want to do what he did, he could have just...
Yeah, he could just not
given up the job.
Yeah.
So, that's no excuse.
Mm-hmm. And that comes up a lot, too. Too, throughout the series. Let's see, what else is there? You want to talk about Wei? We did kind of talk about Wei.
We talked about him.
Yeah. Let's talk about our next villain, Kai Wynn.
She's an older lady.
She's an older lady. She starts off as like a high member of the Bajoran religion. I'd say she starts out as like a bishop. Would that be a thing? And then she ends up becoming the Pope.
The Pope. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So she starts out as a bishop, and she is very power hungry.
Yeah.
She is trying to gain she's very ambitious. She's trying to get as much power as possible.
Yeah. There was. She's very envious of Ben,
yeah. Because Ben has this connection with the prophets. And while she is a strong, like, religious leader, she has never heard the prophets talk to her.
Yeah.
They won't talk to her.
Yeah. I kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah, but, like, and there's things where she's done bad things for the war, too, right?
Yeah. Well, bad, and, it's all relative,
It's
right?
all great,
yeah.
And like
she had a son who she sacrificed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
anyways.
she like there is a point where she starts actually feeling guilty for being a terrible person, right? And she talks to Kira, it's like, Kira, what do I have to do? And then Kira's like, well, yeah, you can ask the prophets for forgiveness and also like step down from your position because you in power, like you're getting power, you're power hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, no, I want to ask for forgiveness, but I also want power.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there was an episode where she uses a younger Bajoran to try to assassinate someone. Who was that?
I think it was Vedic Belial, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she used another Bajoran to try to assassinate potentially like an opponent for her to become Pope, right?
Yeah.
And she does a lot of very like evil things. Like there's a episode where Cisco's going to sacrifice himself in order to destroy the Paul Wraiths, right? And Kai Wynn stops it from happening. And she ends up saving Ben's life, right?
Yeah.
But she ends up just like betraying, like, of course the prophets aren't going to talk to her because she just betrayed them all.
Yeah, that was a confusing episode for me because the satellite could have exploded. Like, was Ben supposed to die?
Yeah, Ben was supposed to die. You know, that's like Ben was supposed to die to destroy the Paul Wraiths, but Kyle Wynn stopped that from happening, and she saved the Paul Wraiths.
Yeah, but at the end you find out why she saved them.
Yeah.
Wait, was she under?
No, she wasn't under their power. That was just her, like consciously making the decision, because she's like, if I let this happen, then Cisco goes down as like
a martyr.
Yeah. And she doesn't want that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, her reasoning for doing things, like even if it ends up being a good thing, is for selfish reasons.
Yeah, so and there was an episode with Vedic Belial, and this is the episode that leads to Vedic Belial's death. Is that Belial has like a brain tumor, and he needs to be resting and like for his surgery, and she keeps waking him up and like asking for his help with like negotiations with the Federation.
Yeah. So basically, she wants to be in a position, but she's not willing to do the work.
Yeah. Nor she does not have the capabilities for someone in her position.
Yeah. And
she just like will sacrifice anyone to get in her way. And Vedic Belial dies because of her.
Yeah, that was sad.
You know, and she like, and the worst part is she's successful.
Yeah.
She's successful because she killed him.
Yeah, but I mean.
She wouldn't have succeeded, and like it's played off that she would not have succeeded without his help.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like a very tragic moment, and you're like, and every time you see her, she has like this smarmy look too. You know, she's so smarmy. She's like in Harry Potter, if you remember the 5th movie or book 5, you know Dolores Umbridge, who is like just kind of like the most hated character. You see her on screen, you just hate her. You know. And then so you see, every time you see Kai Wynn, you're like, oh, it's her again.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't say things that...
she doesn't directly... Yeah. She says everything very pleasant. Yeah, she says everything in a pleasant manner, like she is innocent. She does like that little eye fluttering thing. You know, she'll do like that little eye flutter. It's like, oh, but I'm innocent though. You know?
Yeah. And like her relationship with Kira is kind of like... Oh, my child. Like, whenever she talks to her, she's like...
It's like condescending, like...
What's the, like, feminine version of patronizing? I don't know. But
I think patronizing. I think this is still the same word.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it's only for men.
No, it's for women, too.
Yeah, she's very patronizing towards Kira. She's like, my child, like... I wouldn't speak like that if I were you.
Yeah, and then Kira's like, I'm speaking like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and then Kyle Wynn ends up like going full evil at the end with like by joining the Paul Wraiths and like
and Goldacott.
But then like she betrays Goldacott too.
That was a weird relationship. Yeah. Like they become lovers.
But then she rightfully sees it and she's like, no, I hate you. Right, and like tries to sacrifice Goldacott, but then Goldacott sacrifices her, and it's like everyone gets what they deserve in that relationship.
Yeah, at the end, Goldacott dies, and she dies as well.
Yeah, they both die, so you know they both get what's their comeuppance.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are quite a lot of things that like I just remember in DS9, like Section 31 episodes, with like the secret dark side of the Starfleet, where you have this like secret organization that like breaks all the Starfleet rules and regulations, and they're not like officially like sanctioned by Starfleet.
Yeah, they're not in record either.
Yeah, they're not in record either. So that was
Were
like.
they introduced in TNG?
No, they weren't. They were introduced in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then they come on.
They come in Discovery.
Voyager? Oh, Discovery. Oh, yeah.
They come in Discovery.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Discovery is the latest.
Yeah, one of the latest Star Treks. There are a lot of Star Trek series like coming out like simultaneously.
But Picard ended. It was a short series.
Well, no, because Picard, there was going to be Picard season 2, but COVID happened and they couldn't film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was it. I thought that was
no. Like Picard season 2 got like issues with like development because of like, pandemic happened and they can't, everyone's got to socially distance.
Do you know if it had a lot of fans?
It was okay. Like that's the thing. A lot of people didn't. Here's the thing with like new Star Trek. A lot of like old diehard purists tend to not like new Star Trek.
Yeah.
It has a different vibe. It has a different vibe to it.
Yeah, of course.
It
won't be like TNG.
It won't be like TNG, DS9, or Voyager.
Like 30 years in the past.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's just kind of like there's like that era of like Star Trek that like we won't get anymore, right?
Yeah.
Orville's actually doing Orville's doing a good job with that.
Yeah.
Season 3 of Orville got announced too. And
They're
working on season 3 of Orville.
Oh, okay. Do you know when they're releasing it?
Not sure.
Okay.
Not sure.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And then let's see. They are having another episode, new season of Star Trek, which is it's with Captain Pike and Spock.
Oh.
So it has like more of like that they said that one would have like more of the old school feel of like TNG, DS9, and Voyager.
Yeah, because of the timeline.
Yeah, because of the timeline. So there's that. And also Pike was I really liked Captain Pike in when he was in Discovery.
Yeah.
He was just like he had a charisma to him,
Mm.
And he's like, let's go, like, and he has like shoot, or something.
Yeah.
He was very fun. He was very entertaining, and then he had moments where he like shined too, and like really like it's like, can you do the Starfleet thing? And he's like, yeah, I'll do the Starfleet thing.
Like when?
Remember it was like the time, like, he looked at the time crystals, like, if you accept the time crystals, you must accept your future fate of like this painful thing, thing.
Knowing how you die.
Knowing how you die, and that will be unavoidable.
Yeah.
But if you leave the time crystal here, your fate will be in your, like, you won't be tied to that fate. But he does the thing of, he takes it for the betterment of like everyone, for the galaxy.
Yeah.
And it shows like a lot of like, like you respect him for doing that too, right? Because he ends up being the reason that lets him like save the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he could have totally not have done that.
Yeah.
And then doomed the galaxy.
True. I mean, I think Michael was gonna do it.
Well, they needed the thing so that Michael could do her thing.
Yeah.
Right? If they didn't do that, then like they couldn't have done it, right?
Yeah. But I think that's pretty much it for DS9.
Yeah, that's it for DS9. We could talk more about Star Trek. Thanks for watching, everyone. Listening.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you want to invite people?
No.
Here.
So yeah, that is our Star Trek episode. Thanks for listening. This is for the message for people watching this on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. What's your favorite DS9? Who is your favorite DS9 character? What is your favorite episode? Until then, we'll see you guys later.